Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Stewart Miller, who is the co-founder and CEO of Livewire Productions. Stewart, how are you?
Morning, Paul. Evening for you. Thanks for your time today.
Where are you coming from? Dubai right now?
I'm in Dubai, and I believe you're in Auckland.
I am in Auckland. You know what I mean? Very international, this Paul. You know what I mean? This podcast just keeps going more and more international. We have the first guest from Dubai, though.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I'm sure there's going to be many more. The market here is really growing. There's some interesting innovation coming out of this region.
Absolutely. And then, of course, I know a lot of people know you already, Stewart, but a little bit of background to yourself, right from the start and how you end up getting into the fitness industry, sir.
Okay, you're diving straight in. That's great. So I think if we go back, we won't go back too far because it might be a little, but I think if we look at it, I've been in the fitness industry for over 25 years, started in the equipment space, just distributing product, based out of South Africa. We moved to Dubai 10 years ago, and we set up a boutique studio here called the Platform Studios in around 2017. We very quickly became the #1 boutique in the Middle East, and we won that award for 5 years in a row. We built a fabulous team. We built an incredible community. And, Paul, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And the business grew step by step. We were quite surprised early on the traction we got. But when we started to dig down deeper into the formula behind what we were doing, it was pretty straightforward. We were bringing in the best talent we could from all parts of the world. And they were on stage performing to our community. And what we realized very early was that we wanted to reach more people, and doing it digitally was the only solution. And that was in 2019. So we built a small production division, and we started filming content. And we traveled to a lot of places around the world to figure out how everybody else was doing it. And we saw some formulas that we really liked. And then we also saw the challenges that the market was facing regarding customer acquisition costs, building apps, all these beautiful things. And we started to identify a space where we wanted to be. We then, we all got smashed by 2020. And then as we started to come out of it, we were fortunate that we accelerated really quickly because we had production studios, we had content, we had a team that had their head, they'd already got their head around filming on camera, because that's the hardest part, is convincing someone who's fantastic in a studio with a community to now put them on camera. It's a different skill set, which, you can see, I'm sure. And then,
No, carry on, please.
Yeah, so, if you just accelerate a little bit past for the last 4 years, we ended up building another business called Fit and Glam for one of our partners, and we sold Platform and Fit and Glam at the beginning of 2023. And for the last 2 years, we focused on production because we ran them in parallel. And we identified that we really wanted to grow in that space. We then formed Livewire Productions, which has been running now for 2 years, but we have over 4,000 videos, which we distribute globally.
Nice. And talk to me, because I think that is probably one of the biggest, I think maybe one of the hardest challenges when people look at content creation is taking their current talent and putting that on camera. And me and you both know, because we've been in this game for a long, long time, how hard that is. But what would be your 3 major tips for the execution of that?
So I think that's, I think everybody overlooks that. They think a camera in the corner, and they think that taking someone who's good in the room and just putting them on camera, they're gonna resonate with the community. And I think the biggest thing is you need buy-in from the performer and the talent. They've got to believe in what you're doing. I think that's first and foremost, because if they're unsure that they even want to go down this path, I think that that's your first challenge. So you've really got to identify, do they want to be in the digital world? The second part of it is you have to hire professionals. We brought in fantastic people like Mason Bandenwell. We brought in voice coaches. We brought in the best editors from Discovery Channel. We really focused on creating a product which suited our personality and our DNA, which is obviously built around the team. And I think that's the important part, is bringing professionals to help you set it up first. And then lastly, which is actually doing it backwards, is what are you going to do with this content? Because everybody produces a lot of content at a high cost, and then not many people get to see it. So it maybe sits on their YouTube or sits in their app, but the views are low, and the product is potentially fantastic. And then everybody ends up losing energy behind it because they end up investing millions of dollars into the production to get a very small ROI. And I think that's, you've got to be on platforms. You've got to have that in mind as to which platforms are you going to go on, where you're going to be seen, or what are you doing it for, Yeah,
that's good. And then for the listeners that are listening in as well, like, what would you say your ideal customer is for Livewire?
I don't think we're obviously in the niche space. We're in fitness production. We are a production company, but I think that most production companies produce all variety of things. And the one day it could be a car, the next day it could be a cooking show, and then a fitness influencer. So I think that we're quite niche in the fitness space. So I think anything to do with health and wellness and fitness is important for us. We would obviously film somebody cooking, but we've got to stay focused around the exercise part of it and the wellness part of it. The other side of it is what's so interesting in this current environment, which we're living in, is the interest is actually coming from outside of the fitness industry. And I think those are our ideal customers right now, because what they're looking at is they're looking at entering the space. You saw that global wellness report, 6.3 trillion and 9 trillion by 2028. That's a big market. And when you start to break it down further, the total addressable market, the TAM within that's really high. And whether it's pharmaceuticals or whether it's property developers who are building special, customized real estate, whether it's hotels and corporates that have identified that their company or their team or staff are spending money somewhere else and getting an inferior product, they could in turn offer it to their community at a higher quality, and then measure their let's use the word happiness. Let's measure their mental state and well-being, allowing them to help them progress within their company. And I think that's effectively the target market. Gyms are a natural fit for us because they also want to produce content. They want to have content, but it's not their specialty. So I think, I would say a large portion of it is outside the industry because they're expressing a lot of interest. And then our natural course is going directly to the gym business.
Yeah. And look, you're one of the best in the game in terms of, creating white label content for operators and wellness partners worldwide. I guess, give us a flavor of how those work. What's the best use case that you've done with partners in the past in terms of how to work together? Because I think there's a big hurdle, and we've seen it throughout our years, where many operators have tried to do white label content or battle between using white label content or using their own staff, and sometimes not being aligned to the strategy, sometimes being just a little bit too hard on the execution side. What would be your recommendations before someone engages with yourselves?
So when you talk about white label, Paul, you mean when you say the current market, the marketplace in white label is okay. So in the white label process, I think that the general customer feels that it's freely available to everybody, so they don't own it. That's technically not correct, because when it's in their ecosystem, in their app, and their customer has had to pay a fee, whether it's a membership or whether it's an activation to come into their world. The customer is now in their world. The likelihood of that customer being in somebody else's ecosystem in the same space is very, very slim. But even if they were, we're talking about thousands of pieces of content which are being digitized. And when you digitize something, demonetize, democratize it, however you want to look at it, it's open to the world. That's the first part. The second part of it is when we white label, we do something slightly different. Is we obviously don't wear any branding. All the other brands like to put branding on. So that's something that we started in 2019 that we don't do. The other thing that we don't do is we don't say good morning or good evening. And we don't talk about brand. This would allow our customer to bring a product, our product into their business and effectively own it. With technology now and the use of AI, we've been fortunate enough that we're able to utilize these tools to improve our product even further by producing in a virtual world. So just like gaming does, we produce in a virtual world, which allows our customer, just like you've got on the screen, to have a logo in the background, or alternatively to have their product on the floor, or a totally different set. Your set could be very different behind you. We could be looking out of Dubai right now at the back of your set with a flick of a button. So I think that is something unique that nobody else is doing in this space. The second part of it allows us to future-proof our product for our client, because at the end of the day, we're always thinking about our customer. And what does our customer want? Our customer wants to know that when their client comes in to use their product in their ecosystem, it's relevant to their brand, it resonates with their customer, and it gives them the experience that they're in their world. And I think that's what we've been able to capture really well. And I think that sets us apart. And I appreciate you saying best in the game, because we don't believe we are the best in the game. However, we are very, very specific in what we do. And with what we do, we don't know any other company that's doing it. I'm sure that they're out there. We don't know who they are. But a lot of companies that we compete with are production companies or technology companies who are not from fitness. So the advantage for us is we've got the most incredible coaches who deliver an amazing product, and all we've done is we've helped bridge that gap. We're not a company that's good in technology that's trying to get into fitness. And I think that's the value we bring to our customers. And I think that's what's starting to make the shift for us, is we understand what the customer wants. So at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, isn't it? When they go into a workout or they finish a workout, how was that experience and how do they feel? We know that part we've covered.
And look, every fitness or wellness organization wants to solve the problem, which is, look, how do we achieve their results? How do we be relevant to their customer? How do we support and inspire them? And you're kind of preaching to the converted to probably most of the listeners, but where the content can be that tool to help you personalize. Of course, if it's built around the physical experience, it's even better. I don't want to go off on one, but the thing I did want to ask is, like, in terms of, how do you, like, just a blank piece of paper maybe, and with no bad ideas, like, how can operators execute and enhance their current content and distribution through the likes of our partnership and Livewire directly?
I think that sometimes it's like, in a lot of things in life, we look at fear of loss in a much higher manner than the gain. And I think that when I've spoken to some of your clients, or I've met some of your clients who are using your product or using our product, I think that it's almost it's that first step that all of a sudden feels like a massive mountain, and then once they're in it, it just moves, and they're expecting that it's going to change their whole business overnight, so they've got to do a lot of work up front, when in reality they're looking for incremental improvements. And that's not going to come through some kind of magical subscription or revenue. I think it's going to just come down the road when they start to look at the retention and they start to see that the clients that are engaging with Wexer in a studio or in an app with great content, they see that member stays for longer as a gym business. So they may not see a direct revenue into a subscription, but their members are more engaged and their members stay for longer. That's one way. The other way of looking at it is the effort that's involved in setting this up. There's professionals like yourselves and what we're building, which does it for them. And I don't know many gym operators that get on a plane and go to the Canton Fair and drive for 6 hours from a factory in Beijing into the middle of nowhere to go and negotiate bench prices. Okay. But when they look at content, they feel that they have to make it themselves. But on the bed, yoga mats, they don't set up a factory to start making the beds and the yoga mats. They go to a specialist and say, we're looking for this type of fitness equipment. Can you supply it? And I think that's where your product comes in, where you're giving them a solution which covers it. And then from your point of view, also saying, well, I'm preaching to the converted here, because you're saying we don't produce content. We go to companies who produce content and we put it on our platform. So I think that when more and more businesses, and we're seeing it actually, Paul, since COVID, a lot of big companies jumped in, invested a lot of money, and they're now realizing that bandwidth of directors, CEOs, the team, the marketing, it's just becoming too onerous on the company. They still want it, but it just becomes too much pressure.
Like, from your perspective, of course, COVID was a boom time for us, and we actually always knew it was completely unsustainable in terms of usage numbers and all the rest of it, because it was the only way people could work out. So it was the only option, and so we always knew, and we built the technology, and all of our reports that we share and trends we share is all about, hey, it's the physical experience and how do you support the physical experience. If that's an individual that needs to be have an environment where they're using content to be less intimidated to then go into a live, or the other way where they're actually really, really proficient and non-intimidated as a gym user, and then actually they like their live person and they just want to see that live person, but sometimes they can't make it because of, I don't know, car parking, can't get in, can't book, all the rest of it. But for you, my question is, how much do you think COVID affected the gym space when creating own content? Because, of course, I think a lot of them just went straight into, we'll just create our own. We've got our talent, we've got people on payroll, we've got to go create content. And I still feel like there's a bit of a hangover of that right now, because many of them set up their departments, maybe not well, but they set up their departments or the rest of it, and they're still trying to hold on to that paradigm. Is that fair? Do you see that?
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, you articulated that perfectly. I think that it was happening already. We knew the movement was there, and it was very pre-2020. There was this huge spike, and everybody got into it out of necessity, whether it was from home, whether it was from their gyms. And then they started to see some revenue coming into the space. Couldn't see an end if it was 20 or 21 that their studios would go back to normal, or their gyms would go back to normal. So is this the new norm? Nobody knew. And they invested in it, which is fair enough. But they also hired great people. And they promoted a lot of people. And it's very hard to cut that off. So right now, who has to make that decision about cutting it off or going to buy content from Livewire or signing up to a Wexer platform? Those people are basically putting themselves out of a job. So what happens is the CEO, and they're going to love me for this, but the CEO sees a product, some innovation that you're bringing, or some content that he really thinks is valuable, and he goes to his team and says, listen, I think we need to look at this as an option. And the team says, yes, we've got it. And then 6 weeks later, he says, what happened with that thing I spoke to you about? Nah, we looked at it, but it's a bad idea. It's white label, and everybody's got it. And then he moves on, because what they're going to do is they're going to cut themselves out of a job. So,
Yes, fair.
And
it's well said. It's well said.
I think a lot of them are going through this process now where they're actually really looking at the bottom line, and their businesses are growing now, and the industry's turning, and they're saying, should we focus on the 80-20 principle here?
Yes.
Should we focus on what we're good at and
yeah.
outsource everything else? And I think that's where things are starting to change a little bit. They're not investing in building their own technology, their own apps, their own content. They're starting to go to outside providers and say, can you manage and build this for me? And I think that we're in a very interesting space. I think that was very disruptive for them. And I think now they're realizing that there's actually great value in the blend between the analog and the digital. We're not, digital's not eating the analog and the analog's not eating the digital, because, you know, there's some beautiful stats that have come out. I remember an old report from MindBody where they did an analysis that the generation Y and Z train 5 times a week and twice a week on a digital device. And 40% of them are paying for a service on their digital device from a business that they don't know, never been to. Yeah.
Separate to the gym operator, usually as well.
So now they're in the gym. The gym's done all the hard work.
Yes.
And paying the rent, and I'm on the equipment, but my subscription, I'm paying somebody else. I've never even been there. Now, that is crazy.
I totally agree. Yeah, and a good analogy in terms of senior teams. Like I'll give you a stat for you know, two-thirds of our sales of virtual, so our in-club technologies, is coming because of cost. So, you know, are you saying it's just a reality? It's a business reality, but I don't feel like a lot of people want to admit it. You know, they know that, you know, can you run 12 group exercise classes? I wish our commercial models did. Because I think group exercise is an amazing thing. It's inspired me to get into the industry. It's inspired many to get into the industry. But the reality is the commercial model doesn't justify that amount of output. So it's working together with digital is clearly what the people are kind of voting with their wallets rather than what they're saying. So was that a fair analogy in what you're seeing as well?
Yes, I think that the cost plays a big part, but it's also around. The market is very demanding, and we know what we want. Our customers know what they want. But they want it now. It's on their time. It's customized for them. When they switch on that app or they enter that program in the digital device inside the club, whether it's in a cycle studio, in a MindBody studio, in a reformer studio, or on the gym floor, it's on their terms. And
totally agree.
Price plays a big role, but does the price make the biggest difference for the client? Let's just put a question mark and say yes. But what about the operator? How does the operator run a class at 11 a.m. in the morning when 1 or 2 people show up and he has to pay $50 or $60 for the coach? It's not financially viable. And then what ends up happening is it reflects poorly on the business because the 8 and 9 class were full. So you then have to hire a slightly lower level trainer, which then doesn't give the customer a good experience. So then the gym brand is then sacrificed, or their brand, isn't presented in the light that they wanted it. So I think so many of these things play a complicated part in this moving structure. But what's happened is that I don't think I've sat with a potential client who said, we don't want anything to do with digital. I don't think I've had that discussion since 2020. Pre-2020, yes. They were worried that they were going to, if we build a great product, then our customers aren't going to come to gym. That's gone. Those days are
I think everyone's accepted that. That's just
they've accepted that. But which path they want to go down, they're still unsure. And then where does the cost factor come in is a big concern for them. But seeing the direct revenue line is what they're really looking for. But actually, it's like marketing. It's very hard to put an exact number on that campaign got me that much revenue. And I think sometimes then businesses should look at it more holistically and say, as part of our offering, we need to bring this in.
Yeah, well said. And then look, I'm going to go a little bit off script, but you guys are leading the way in a lot of content innovations, especially thinking AI translations. Like what else is coming down the pipe in terms of your innovations on your side, or have I just ruined it by saying AI translations?
No. I mean, AI is a hot topic. I did a talk last year to the hotel group around AI and how disruptive it is. And, there was a whole lot of people, before me also talking about it. And I think that we're still in the transformation economy. We were in the experience economy. Now we're in the transformation economy, and we're preparing for hyper-customization, which is effectively the AI economy. And when you think about AI, a lot of personal trainers or gym owners or businesses are fearful of it, the same as this content question. But if they lean in, which some of them are doing, they're going to be far more profitable, which we're starting to see. And with AI in the production space we're in, we could be disrupted overnight. And what we're doing is we've identified this some years back, and we're leaning in heavy. The way we produce in that virtual environment is already different. It's far more expensive. It's a lot more work, but it gave us some flexibility when we started a couple of years ago to protect us in the future. Not sure exactly where it was going, but we started it. The same with AI. You've seen some of the dubbing we're doing, and we've gone one step further. We're doing some animation where we're actually using real movements of real yoga coaches in the correct positions, and we're creating animated characters from them. And where is this going? I think that we're going to be disrupted in the fitness world, and the standalone gyms are going to be affected by hotels. And our production businesses and fitness content creators and influencers going to be disrupted by Disney? Are they going to be disrupted by Netflix becoming the biggest fitness business in the world? What are we witnessing here? Are we witnessing live classes? First, we see live boxing events. Then we start to see live workouts. Then we start to see animated workouts with celebrities. All this AI is coming through, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be very exciting. And I think that the businesses that embrace it, I think, are going to accelerate over the next 2 years. It's going to be a fantastic time to be part of this industry.
Yeah, I was actually listening to the Diary of the CEO, and he had Eric Schmidt on, the old CEO of Google, and he put it well. It's just like, look, all companies in every single aspect of your value chain needs to work with AI. If it's an efficiency thing, if it's an improvement thing, if it's engagement for user experience, it has to be done, because it's just you're going to be outworked by 3 to 4 times if you to companies that don't do it. And I think that's actually got a nice way to think about it. It doesn't have to be a big leap moment of innovation. It's actually just an efficiency game, or it's because there are going to people, like he was talking about, that we should be expecting staff to do 3 to 4 times more output if they're working with AI agents, because they should be able to clear out a lot of the things that they would do, which would take a lot of time. But automation is going to be led by AI, and that will rapidly change a lot of productivity issues. So there's one there. But I think for me, from a gym operator point of view, I think so many operators that we've worked with across the world have only been limited to certain choices of content, because of high quality content in Swedish, for example, or high quality content in Japanese. But that, I feel like we're only months away from that actually being completely and utterly disrupted. The best content that Livewire has produced is also going to be able to be produced in Japanese, and at the same quality standards, right? So I think that just offers so much more opportunities for a lot of operators in different languages to be able to embrace some of the best content that usually has been only English speaking, I guess.
And I think that's a great way of looking at it. The gym operators are going to benefit from this opportunity as they grow their global brands, for example, franchises, or if they want to expand. Because now what they can do is, with their franchises, they can sell them a platform with all the content and the formats and the workout formats or the gym programs in multiple languages.
Yes.
They can also change the branding, and the part about the part of it that is the fear in it is how we're going to do it, how much is it going to cost, what's the investment. that's being removed from what you and I spend our days on, because they come to us to say, how do we do it? We give them the solution. And it will reduce price. It won't increase price because it's on a unit economics. So, we're not filming the content over and over again, but we're using technology. So like you say, it'll improve productivity 3 or 4 times and the quality goes up. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is one from a business, but also from a coach and from a PT. So, they're the first ones that will say, no, people still want high touch. And I couldn't agree more. That consumers today want things more customized. They want more high touch. They want things hyper customized for them. But when I go to my PT and I do my session in person, when I travel, I can still connect with him digitally now through fabulous devices. When I connect my wearables, I can send him the information. Some of it is connected automatically. But how great is it going to be in the future when the AI captures all this information for my coach and summarizes it for him and gives him a little notification at 12 o'clock to say, I think Stewart's been pushing it a bit too much, or he's been a bit slack. He hasn't got his steps. He hasn't done it. He's relying, and then he's coming to me. So I don't have to search anymore for results. The results come to me. And now I think that's where AI is really powerful for everybody.
Yeah, smart. And I guess probably your last question, Stuart, like what would be the thing that excites you the most, in the next 5 years?
We put a goal out to move 1 million people a day.
I saw that. I thought you would have dropped that in at the start. You know what I mean? Very cool.
Yeah, and I look forward to you and I being on a call when you say, "What's the new number?" Because when we put that number out, we were only moving 600,000 people a year, and we'd introduce 2 million people to the joy of exercise. So that's what I'm excited about. I think that number is going to be smashed very quickly with technology and with the digital opportunities.
Nice, well said. And then how do people connect with you, Stuart?
They connect to us through livewireproductions.com, either on LinkedIn or on our website, and there's a direct connect button there to set up an appointment or drop me an email.
Stuart, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate everything you're doing as an entrepreneur and as a content creator. I really appreciate our partnership. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you too. Thank you, Paul.
Cheers.
Grateful. Bye.